Tora from Ohio asks, "Hey, mean counselor, what can I do to build more meaningful connections with others?" Oh, isn't that just sweet? Meaningful connections. You know, like some rom-com scene where you lock eyes with a stranger and suddenly have this magical understanding. But I have news for you. Real connections don't just show up, and they definitely don't show up when your only strategy is whining about how people are so fake, or no one understands me. Here's a reality check. If you're lacking deep connections, it's probably because you're not putting in the work to actually deserve them. Now, let's get into what meaningful connections actually require, shall we? Step 1. Be less self-centered. Step 1. Tara, let's talk about the way you're probably doing relationships right now. All about you, isn't it? Every conversation is an opportunity to talk about your own problems, your own accomplishments, and whatever detail you think everyone is dying to hear about. Well, guess what? If every interaction revolves around you, here's the simple reason why you're not making connections: because no one cares. You know what actually attracts people? Curiosity about them. Ask people questions, and not just the surface level "How are you?" that you couldn't care less about. Ask people something real. And here's the kicker: listen to their answer. Because if you're asking questions and just waiting for your turn to speak, people can tell. So maybe shut up for once and actually pay attention. I know it's tough, but if you want meaning, you're going to have to get outside of that little me box and show interest in other people. Step 2. Stop treating connections like transactions. Here's a reality for you. People aren't vending machines. You don't get to put in a quarter and get back a lifelong friend. You want meaningful relationships, but what's your idea of a relationship anyway? Is it just finding people to give you what you need when you need it? Or do you actually care about being there for other people too, even when it doesn't benefit you? If you're just hanging around people to get something, whether it's attention, advice, a shoulder to cry on, or whatever you need to feel validated, then don't be surprised when those connections feel empty. Meaningful connections are a two-way street. Try giving a little before you expect anything in return. Be willing to be there, even when there's nothing in it for you. If that sounds too demanding, maybe meaningful connections aren't for you after all. Step 3. Vulnerability, not a sob story. Now, Tara, I know you're probably thinking, well, I am vulnerable. I tell people my problems all the time. But there's a difference between genuine vulnerability and using people as a sounding board for your complaints. Telling people your life is hard isn't vulnerability. That's just dumping your emotional baggage. Real vulnerability means sharing who you are beyond the bad stuff. Be honest, even if it's scary. Talk about your passions, your values, even your weird hobbies, without always angling for sympathy or applause. If you only ever play the victim, people will eventually see right through it. You want connection? Then show up as a whole person. Vulnerability is about trust, not just turning every conversation into "my life is so hard, feel bad for me." Open up, but don't make it a pity party. And for heaven's sake, let the other person share too. This isn't a therapy session. Step 4. The gift of time. You claim you want meaningful connections, but let me guess, you're just so busy, right? Because if I had $1 for every time someone whined about how they're too busy for actual relationships, I'd be sitting on a beach somewhere instead of dealing with this nonsense. Here's the deal. If you're not willing to prioritize people, you don't deserve meaningful connections, period. Stop thinking a text every 2 weeks is enough to build something meaningful. If you want a friend, act like one. Call people, make plans, follow through. Relationships die when you're always too busy to keep them alive. You wouldn't water a plant once a month and expect it to thrive, right? Well, it's the same with friendships. And if you keep flaking on people, don't be shocked when they stop answering. Final thoughts. So there you go, Tara. You want meaningful connections? Get out of your own head. Quit treating people like emotional ATMs. Share real parts of yourself. Make actual time for people. And stop judging everyone like some kind of social evaluator. You do all that, and maybe, just maybe, you'll find those connections you're so desperate for. And hey, if you can't do any of that, I hear cats are great company. Low maintenance, no small talk, and you don't even have to pretend to care about their feelings. Win-win, right?